Welcome back to the kitchen. Today we're making a classic dessert that's easy, comforting, and absolutely delicious, a homemade blueberry cobbler. Whether you're using fresh or frozen berries, this recipe is sure to hit the spot. We've got a sweet, juicy filling with a buttery, flaky topping that's perfect with a scoop of ice cream or a dollop of whipped cream. So grab your ingredients and let's get baking. All right, let's get started on our blueberry cobbler. For the filling, you'll need about 4 cups of fresh or frozen blueberries, 1 cup of sugar, a tablespoon of lemon juice, and a teaspoon of vanilla extract, a pinch of salt, and, if you like, a dash of cinnamon for extra flavor. For a thicker filling, a tablespoon of cornstarch. Now for the cobbler topping, grab 1 cup of flour, a 1/4 cup of sugar, 2 teaspoons of baking powder, and a pinch of salt. Cube a 1/4 cup of cold butter, 1/2 cup of milk, and 1/2 teaspoon of vanilla extract. If you want a richer topping, feel free to add an egg. First things first, let's get the oven preheated to 375 degrees Fahrenheit or 190 degrees Celsius. This ensures that once we have our cobbler ready, it goes straight into a hot oven for the perfect bake. While it's heating up, we can focus on preparing the filling and topping. Make sure your oven rack is positioned in the center for even heat distribution. Now that we've set the temperature, let's move on to the filling. For the filling, take about 4 cups of fresh or frozen blueberries and toss them into a large bowl. Next, add 1 cup of sugar. This will help bring out the sweetness of the berries. Squeeze in a tablespoon of lemon juice, which will balance the sweetness and give it a nice tangy kick. To help thicken the filling, add a tablespoon of cornstarch, but if you like it a bit runnier, you can skip this part. Stir everything gently, and for a touch of warmth, add a pinch of cinnamon and a little salt to bring out the flavors. Once that's all mixed, transfer the berry mixture to a greased 9-inch baking dish. We're almost ready to start on the topping. Let's move on to the cobbler topping. Grab a bowl and whisk together 1 cup of all-purpose flour, a 1/4 cup of sugar, 2 teaspoons of baking powder, and a pinch of salt. These dry ingredients form the base for our topping. Next, take a 1/4 cup of cold butter. It's really important that the butter is cold. Cut it into small pieces and toss it into the flour mixture. Use a pastry cutter, fork, or even your hands to cut the butter into the flour until it looks like coarse crumbs with little pea-sized bits of butter. This will give us that nice flaky texture in the topping. Ready to mix it up further? Let's add the wet ingredients next. Let's bring it all together. Pour in 1/2 cup of milk and 1/2 teaspoon of vanilla extract into the flour butter mixture. Stir it gently with a spoon or spatula until it forms a thick, sticky dough. It's okay if the dough looks a bit uneven or lumpy. That's totally normal. If you want a richer topping, you can add an egg to the mix now. It will make the dough a little more golden and a bit more moist. Once everything is combined, your cobbler topping is ready. Don't worry if the dough is thick. It will spread out a bit when it bakes. Now, let's move on to assembling it. Okay, we're ready to assemble the cobbler. Grab your baking dish with the blueberry filling. Take spoonfuls of the cobbler dough and drop them over the blueberries. You don't have to cover the whole top. It's perfectly fine if there are gaps. The dough will spread a little while baking. If you want a crunchy finish, sprinkle a little coarse sugar on top of the dough for extra sweetness and texture. Once it's all topped, you're ready to get it into the oven. I'll go ahead and place this in the preheated oven at 375 degrees Fahrenheit for about 40 to 45 minutes. Now we wait while the cobbler bakes to perfection. After 40 to 45 minutes, the topping should be golden brown, and the filling will be bubbling up around the edges. If you find the topping is browning too quickly, you can cover the cobbler loosely with aluminum foil and continue baking until it's fully cooked through. Once it's done, take it out of the oven and let it cool for about 10 to 15 minutes. This will allow the filling to set a little bit, so it's not too runny when you serve it. Now serve it up warm with a scoop of vanilla ice cream or a dollop of whipped cream. Lastly, here are a few tips to make your blueberry cobbler even better. First, about the blueberries. You can use fresh or frozen blueberries for this recipe, and they both work great. If you're using frozen berries, don't thaw them. Just toss them straight into the bowl. Frozen berries can actually help thicken the filling, giving you that perfect texture. Also, if you want a thicker filling, you can use a tablespoon of cornstarch. This is especially useful if you like your filling more set. But if you like it a bit runnier, you can skip the cornstarch. Now for the cobbler topping, make sure to use cold butter when mixing it into the flour mixture. Cold butter creates that flaky, tender texture we love in a cobbler topping. You can use a pastry cutter, a fork, or even your hands to break up the butter until it's pea-sized. The more you handle it, the more you'll lose that flakiness, so be gentle. If you want your topping to be a bit fluffier, you can add a little baking soda, but make sure you don't overmix the dough. And if you're looking for a richer, more golden topping, adding an egg is a great option. Just whisk it into the wet ingredients. For other variations, you can substitute some of the blueberries with other berries like raspberries, blackberries, or strawberries for a mixed berry cobbler. You could also add a bit of orange zest to the filling for a citrusy note. Now, enjoy your homemade blueberry cobbler.